In this week's episode on A Brit and Poland, we finish our current Jelenia Góra arc and visit something special. Hidden in this part of Lower Silesia is one of the most unique landscapes in Poland, a valley filled with palaces, historic estates, and carefully designed gardens, shaped over centuries by noble families. So, over 2 days, I set out to explore it. At first, it feels refined, almost predictable. A journey through wealth, architecture, and a very particular kind of history. But the further you go, the more this place starts to change. The plans don't always work out, distances stretch further than expected, and what begins as one kind of journey slowly turns into something else. Because beyond the palaces, there are still stories waiting to be found. This was the route I took. 2 days exploring the Valley of Palaces and beyond. And what I found wasn't quite what I expected.
Dzień dobry and welcome to A Brit and Poland. With this channel, I travel across the country, I bring you the culture, and I show you just how amazing Poland is. So I invite you on my journey. If you want to see more, I have Facebook and Instagram profiles, which you will find links to in the description below. And if you want to really help out, you can turn to my Patreon or Patronite accounts, again in the description. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Do zobaczenia.
It starts off quietly. Walking through the forest from the hotel, encountering some large rocks scattered along the path, but otherwise a very quiet and tranquil forested area. And there's a feeling of heading into something a little unknown. And then it opens up, fields stretching out ahead, with the mountains in the distance. And that's always my favourite kind of view. Something about it just feels grounding. And then there are some signs of life again. Some old buildings, which full of character, even if not fully standing still. This is the outskirts of Łomnica, and we're gradually approaching the palace complex. There are a few kind of local shops, which I didn't quite venture into. I didn't go on a shopping trip. And I tell you, the first thing about the palace itself, when you get to it, beyond this charming little square, a nice random cute pond, the first thing that hits you about the palace is it is very, and I mean very, yellow, but also quite elaborate. And it definitely feels like a proper estate. And the estate here goes back centuries, shaped over time by different noble families, and what you see now is the result of that evolution. The gardens are calm, ordered, nothing too over the top, just somewhere to slow down for a bit. Inside, it opens up even more. Quite a lot to take in. Rooms filled with furniture, details from different periods, and it really does feel like lived in history. I even got an audio guide and just took my time going through it, more observing than anything else. This is really where the story of the valley begins. The estate here goes back to at least the 15th century, originally owned by the von Siedlęcin family, one of the many noble families who shaped this region. What you see today isn't from one moment in time, it's the result of centuries of change. The current palace is largely Baroque, developed and expanded in the 17th and early 18th centuries, when estates like this became less about defense and more about status. This is really the shift you see across the whole valley, from fortified structures to something much more refined. And here you really see that transition. It's not just decoration, it's a glimpse into how people lived here and how important these estates once were, and how much they liked hunting, apparently. But it was a nice little first stop on my way. I didn't quite know what to expect on this journey. All I knew is I had my route. I knew the names of the places, maybe I'd seen a few photos, but nothing quite prepares you for that in-person visit. And from the palace, it's a short journey to the next stop. Because next we're heading to Wojanów Palace. And this one, well, it will feel very different straight away. Though we have a bit of locality to get through first. I always want to include as much of the local area as possible. But this one, it feels more like a castle than a palace. Stronger, more defensive. Something about it really stands out. And you can feel that history here. This was part of a royal vision, turning this whole valley into a retreat, something shaped by wealth and influence. And the space here is huge. Open grounds, streams, even a small pagoda tucked away. It feels expansive, more designed. Wojanów adds another layer to the story. First mentioned in the 13th century, later rebuilt after being destroyed during the 30 Years' War. But its real transformation came in the 19th century, when it was bought by Prussian royalty. And that changed everything. Because this wasn't just one palace being improved. This entire valley became a kind of aristocratic landscape. A place where nobles and royalty created a network of estates, each one connected, each one designed to be part of a wider vision. And one very random thing, I was on the phone to, I'm trying to remember, one of the English newspapers, Times or something. They just contacted me on Instagram because it was when some drones came over from Ukraine and they were asking me if Poland was about to run into air raid shelters. And I just had to laugh at how ridiculous the English press really is. Yeah, I didn't need that distraction on my otherwise lovely day. Yeah, no, this was a nice sign of things to come, this palace. Beautiful, iconic, a real signature piece of the valley. And yeah, Maybe I overshot. I had to show it off. And then we're going to get back on the road, passing through villages, through fields, some quiet stretches of countryside, and starting to feel the distance a bit more. Taking in a few churches, of course, because, well, if you don't see a church for more than a kilometre, something has gone wrong. You've probably left Poland, in fairness. But no, I love it. I love the character. And you can see some historic buildings. I obviously know nothing about them, but they look like they've got a few years. And in the distance, you can see our next target, which is Bobrów. Now, this was originally a defensive site, protecting a crossing along the Bóbr River, or the Beaver River, I guess. I knew it wasn't going to be open, but I was still glad to see it. There's just something about it. Seeing it just from the gate, that makes it feel a bit more mysterious. I also met a friendly little dog, which definitely helped. And yeah, I felt a bit sad that I couldn't see more, but it was under renovation, and the walls here just tell you, okay, this was something more impressive. But yes, from there the walk continues, and we're back to forest paths, and well, almost. We have a bit of novelty on the way. I love how people decorate their gardens in Poland sometimes, especially in these kind of more remote areas. But yeah, we have some small lakes. And this area, it felt really peaceful. Though by now, the fatigue was starting to creep in. The feet were maybe feeling a bit sore. There wasn't really much room for sitting down on this journey. And you're always racing against the clock. In fact, I was racing against the weather. There was a palace here which I couldn't see. That was very sad, but never mind. Yeah, Pałac Bobrów. And this is the village of Karpniki. It's small, lived in, but layered. I'll admit, a bit frustrating not being able to explore everything properly. And then this, getting close to this anyway. Our next stop, and our last major stop for this section, which is Fischbach Castle. And this one feels grand, because this one has a moat, a lake, some cannons at the front. It really leans into that romantic, almost like fairy tale feel. This was definitely one of the most striking buildings in the valley. The origins here go back centuries, but like many places in this region, it was transformed again in the 19th century. In fact, this became one of the first royal residences in the valley, owned by Prince Wilhelm of Prussia. And that tells you something important. This wasn't just a collection of buildings, it was a region that had become desirable, a place where power, wealth, and landscape all came together. It's one of those places where you expect to be able to explore more, but even just seeing it from the outside, it leaves an impression. But by this point, I was definitely feeling it, tired, a bit frustrated, trying to figure out the way back, because I had originally planned to get a bus back after the long walk here. Could I find the bus stop? No, I found bus stops. They weren't the right bus stop. I was checking with AI. AI didn't know. I mean, this was back in September, so maybe AI has come along a bit since then. But yeah, so I was just taking in the castle, blissfully unaware that I had no way back to the hotel at this point. But I took some time to explore the village a bit more. I could feel the storms were coming in. It was very windy. The clouds were ominous. And yeah, as I said, I couldn't find a bus back, even though there was one. So I ended up walking back to my hotel, which was fun, especially because on the way back, the heavens opened. Luckily, I had an umbrella. I'm British, so we always need one of those. And also on the way back, I took a bit of a detour into a forest, which, shielded me a bit from the rain. And I'm squeezing in day 2 into this video because I didn't want to make a 4th film about this region. I thought I could just squeeze it in, so that's why this video is a bit longer. And so yeah, this next day, it felt completely different. Nice clear skies, quieter paths, chance to head out again. This time following the Bóbr River. I didn't see any beavers though, that would have been cool. I saw this bridge, which was pretty epic actually. Yeah, I don't think it's like particularly ancient, but it's impressive. I guess it's a railway bridge, that would be my best guess. But yeah, it was a nice calm route, walking along the river, winding through the forests, the cliffs rising slightly above on one side, the water guiding the way forward. And along the way, you pass reminders of how the landscape has been used over time. Here's a bit of a clue for something coming up. There were impressive large rocks, which are, very characteristic. There was this cool tower next to basically a hostel, where I did stop for some pierogi, and I used very bad Polish to order it, but luckily I got through it. But I came to something a little unexpected, but it's not the surprise I have for the later stage. Yeah, there was this cool bridge. Yeah, that was nice. And I had to admit, I wish I'd had time to go to the other side and see what was there. I expect epic hiking trails. Of course, yeah, lots of nice rocks. Come on, there we go. This, I think, hydroelectric plant, or a dam at least. It's impressive. I don't think it's by far the biggest one in Poland, but yeah, this seemed to be like an abandoned restaurant. At least it seemed abandoned. But we finally got to Siedlęcin. I hope that's how it's pronounced. And this is where things take a very different turn. The Siedlęcin Tower is one of the best preserved medieval residential towers in Central Europe. Built in the early 14th century during the time of the Piast dynasty. It was originally designed not just for defense, but as a symbol of power, controlling trade routes along the river and the valuable land around it. And inside, it still feels incredibly intact. Stone floors, heavy wooden beams, a space that hasn't lost its medieval character. But then, once you get past a few interesting artifacts, something completely unexpected happened, something which I had read about, I think an article on Facebook or something, just randomly, but had no idea it was actually here. but we're about to get to something monumental once we get past the infrastructure of the building. As you can see, it's very well preserved, obviously a little bit restored probably. Go on, I want to do the reveal. I've got too much interior shooting. But yes, these murals, when you look at them closely, they depict the story of Lancelot, not this specific one, but you will see it hopefully. And this is where it gets important, because this isn't just decoration, it's a cultural bridge. The story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table comes from Celtic and Western European tradition, something you would normally associate with Britain or France, not here. But by the 13th century, these stories had spread across Europe, reaching places like Silesia. And that's what you're looking at here. And it is one of the only surviving examples of these stories being brought to life in this way. I think it is the only mural of Lancelot that remains in Poland. A direct link between medieval Poland and the wider cultural world of Europe is very significant, because it shows that this region, it wasn't isolated, it was connected, influenced by ideas, stories, and traditions from far beyond its borders. And I even bought a book about these murals for my dad. Something I never got to give him. And standing here, you realize this isn't just a local curiosity. It's something genuinely rare. Just take it in. I mean, many people will see nothing, but it is something truly remarkable. Stepping back outside, the village feels quiet again, almost unchanged. I popped over because, I was here, so I had to see what I could with the time I had left. So I saw a few churches, a few houses. I did a little bit of exploring on tired feet. It wasn't even the longest hike, and just, I've been having problems with feet, which I think this year I've finally helped a lot. We'll see what happens in June. But anyway, heading back along the river to one final stop. A viewpoint over everything you've just walked through. What started as a journey through palaces turned into something much more. A mixture of nature, history, and something completely unexpected. And that's what makes this region so special. Not just what you expect to find, but what you don't. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and do zobaczenia. I hope you enjoyed the video, and much more of Poland to bring to your screens.